Igbo Republicanism and the Ascendancy of Southeast Nigeria. In the aftermath of the Nigerian Civil War, the political fortunes of the Igbos of Southeast Nigeria appear to have been steadily deteriorating. The decline at the political front seems to have been replicated at the economic front, culminating in an atmosphere of hopelessness and frenzy amongst the Igbos, with attendant lack of visible progress in the 5 states of Southeast Nigeria. In spite of these challenges, the Igbo search for political direction appears to have remained haphazard, with no meaningful adjustment, particularly at the ideological level. Accordingly, this article reveals the Igbo concept of Igbo primitive republicanism, highlighting the shortfalls that emphasize its anachronism to the political and economic ascendancy of Southeast Nigeria. Additionally, it insists that the desire for political relevance and economic uplifting amongst the Igbos of Southeast Nigeria must first begin with the search for a more appropriate ideology that best serves such interests within a united Nigeria. Consequently, it makes recommendations for peaceful Nigeria-Igbo relations. At independence, the Igbos of the defunct Eastern Nigeria were considered as one of the legs of the Nigerian tripod, which comprised of the 3 major ethnic groups in the country, to wit, the Hausa Fulani, the Yorubas, and the Igbos. These ethnic groups were considered major only in terms of their numbers and not necessarily because they were superior to the nearly 400 ethnic nationalities that dotted the Nigerian landscape. Historically, there was mutual respect between these ethnic groups, which lived relatively peacefully in the few years after independence until the Nigerian Civil War of 1966 to 1970. Unfortunately, the sectionalist tendencies of the leading politicians of Nigeria's First Republic amplified the fault lines of ethnic rivalry, confirming the fears of the ethnic minorities about their potential emasculation in what could become the dictatorship of the ethnic majorities. As these tendencies grew, trust began to diminish between the major ethnicities on the one hand, and on the other hand, between ethnic minorities and ethnic majorities, which seemed to dominate the political space in many of the regions. Real trouble began with the rigging of the 1962 census, which was repeated in 1963, but still ended up with controversial results. Furthermore, internal schisms within the Action Group AG had precipitated several clashes between the Awolowo and Akintola factions, resulting in wanton violence. These attracted the federal declaration of a state of emergency in the Western region, which was the base of the party. However, with Awolowo's arrest in 1963 and his subsequent award of a 10-year prison sentence, the AG was officially set on the path of decline. Meanwhile, the creation of the Midwest region to assuage the fears of certain minorities was seen by the Western region as a federal attempt to weaken the West, especially as regards its status as the power base of the opposition action group. Incidentally, the 1964 general elections that followed the census of 1962-1963 also witnessed massive rigging, resulting in a lot of contestations and riots across the country. And in all of these, the military was watching in the background. Thus, on 15th January 1966, Major Patrick Chukwuma Kaduna Nzogu and his band of coup plotters struck the First Republic out of existence in a series of operations beginning with Damisa, but the Nzogu intervention was later to be tagged an Igbo coup in view of the collateral damage on the northern and western fronts, which saw the demise of the premiers of these regions, as well as many senior military officers of northern and western extraction. The outcome of the coup was largely responsible for the extrajudicial killings of Igbos in the pogrom that followed, culminating in the counter-coup of 28 July 1966. Accordingly, the Igbo suffering and depravity in the aftermath of the July rematch, compounded by the carnage of the Civil War, was to herald an era of consistent political and socio-economic decline for the ethnic nationality. Sadly, the long years of decline appear not to have been confronted with reasonable intellectual vigor on the part of the Igbos to reverse the trend, except for periodic lamentations of marginalization, often laced with discordant and incoherent strategies for the revival of the defunct sovereign state of Biafra. Accordingly, the aim of this effort is to assess the Igbo strategy of survival within the post-Civil War Nigerian Federation with a view to making recommendations. Professor Mark Anthony Nze's value-oriented system theory in contemporary times (VOST) is a framework of strategic management and leadership conceptualized along three main drivers, namely a value-oriented thinking process, knowledge creation and management, as well as social change strategies for developmental growth and transformation through innovation and entrepreneurship. It is built on the 1 plus 19 equals VOST, where 1 equals speed and 19 equals accuracy doctrine, and aimed at applying speed and accuracy to fabricate innovative solutions to concrete problems in rapidly changing political and socio-economic environments.